Hello everyone, and thank you for tuning in again. Today we are doing something a little bit different, and I'm playing the music I want to play instead of one of those streaming tunes. So I'm going to listen to some punk rock factory, and if it gets removed from YouTube, it gets removed from YouTube. Thanks for turning up anyway. So today we are experimenting with a few ideas. I prepared a little basic application. It doesn't do much, it's just a simple kind of multi-user blog style. Not much more than that, to be honest. Hey wife! So it's ooh. I need to update that. But it allows us to create a blog post, just really simple, nothing extravagant, nothing too crazy. Clean and simple. However, I'm testing out something new for planning. So let's go have a look at it, shall we? Here we go. Right, let me zoom in so it's a little bit easier to read. So it's just a multi-user blog project. Basically, users can log in and start adding blog posts to their account, and will contain a central stream of blog posts in timeline order to allow discovery across blogs. So really simple medium style, just write blog post, away we go. We're going to have simple database design aimed at simplicity. We're not trying to do anything too complicated. We'll add like a read later list so you can bookmark things and such. It's going to have a really simple back end. The main focus here is that just get on and publish. There's going to be some basic front end. Let me turn that down. There we go. I'm probably about to go through that. Very unusual name. This is linear app, so I can like go to projects. I can create a new project. I can do stuff, and then I can add them as issues or all issues across all projects or anything that's assigned to me. Any active issues, backlog, the board. Come over to here and we're good. It's kind of useful. There's lots of other stuff you can do. You can like integrate with loads of different apps as well, I believe. I've not played around with it too much, but I'm trying it out, as well as Notion. But this is more for planning, because Notion's planning's okay, but it's not great. So I'm just testing it out to see how good it might be, because I can do comments, I can do stuff. I can do stuff, that's the important thing, right? So, database design. So if I just go through the migrations really quickly, just to explain how simple they are. We've got obviously the users table. All I've added is a unique handle, so that what it'll do, it'll just basically slugify your name and add the ID on the end to guarantee uniqueness, allowing you to update it later on. I did think about like taking the email and taking the first part, but we'll see. That's all I've done with the users table. Obviously then we've got categories. Really simple slug title description and whether it's an active category or not, so you can show or hide them on the home page. Description, that bit, that's there mainly for kind of SEO purposes really. Then we've got posts. So a post has got a UID, that's so we can kind of have a uniqueness to it, because the idea is that slugs don't have to be unique. Slugs are only unique for that user, so I'm going to have a bit of fun figuring out how to do some validation around that one. Title, description for SEO, then content body, status, whether it's been approved. We've got post status enum available. Whether it's been approved or not, because there's going to be a sense of moderation going through, so we'll be looking at some event sourcing further down the line. Then we're going to have user ID and category ID for relations, and publish that. So as soon as that's approved, the publish that will be triggered. Hello Devcast. So this is a really simple app so far. I've got a few routes available. So in our web we've got That's our dashboard route, just really simple for now. We've got middleware, our auth, prefix app, and then we've got our root block for our posts. So within here we've got index controller see all posts, not really being used right now, create, store, show and update. Haven't done delete yet, that's something I'll add later on when I need it. So the create controller, for example, all that's doing really is just returning a view. It doesn't need to do much. The store controller, right now we're passing in a store request, so we're going to authorize. There's our nice validation that we're doing right now. And then we're just doing a quick post query create and just redirect back to the dashboard, because that's kind of where you want to go afterwards. There's no viewing of it, there's no anything like that, it's simply just let's create something and away we go. Because our default status is draft, you're submitting a blog post to be approved basically, so there's no publish, it's always going to be draft, and then it's going to go through a workflow of flagging the moderator to say okay, this is approved or rejected, which is all in the enums. So really simple routes. We've got some real simple controllers going on. All I've done is put it under web backend because we're going to have web front end as well. Web backend posts. All of our stuff is in here. Nice out the way, nothing too crazy going on. Web backend posts, mirroring what's going on with the HTTP requests. All simple Laravel stuff so far, and then we've got our models. Hey Frick! And then with our post model, all I've done so far is keep it really simple. I've got the IDE helper, so I can generate these. So what I can do is go to here. I need to add this to my aliases, so I can go vendor bin, sale, artisan, IDE, generate. That'll just generate everything for me. Oh, route discovery is so nice. Wait a minute. Oh, you're on about your... That's not a bad idea, actually. So here's a new route list, and that just looks beautiful, doesn't it? I mean, just so clean. So clean. And that's why I like to name my routes like that, because look how nice and organised that is. Everything's got its method of how things are referenced. Hey, Ashley. So, one hell of a dog blog. So, route discovery, definitely something I want to look at, especially as I'm going to be diving into splitting this out modular. So one thing that really inspired me was, I'm probably going to have to open up Notion on this. It might open up over here. That's fine, because I don't know which Notion I've got open so far. Work Notion. So I need to go to my Notion before I share this. Can't give you away all the secrets, really, can I? So here we go. Let's open this over here. YouTube channel. Modeling our domain in Laravel. So this talk was just gave me a lot of inspiration, to be honest. So what I did, I kind of walked through and just made notes. So the concept is to add routes and service providers and everything within the domain module to allow easy grouping. I'm not 100% sure on it just yet, if I'm honest, but the routing definitely makes sense. Keeping that encapsulated, so if you pull it out, nothing's going to break. Cross-domain communication using services is nice. So nice. I mean, I'm much more of a kind of using actions over services personally, but I'm going to see what we can do to kind of blend the two there. So each module domain can have its own service provider to stop any boundary leakages, which is such a cool idea. Such a cool idea. And then obviously depth track to enforce boundary crossing with PHP classes. So I took a couple of screenshots of how we set it all up and how it all works so I could understand it. And then you can analyze and visualize any issues that are going on. Hey Michael. So I have added a couple of these little things already. So let's go to here and let's go vendor bin sale exec is it depth track new. I can't see it. Okay, so I can't spell today. What's going on? So I can back at Laracon. Okay, we're going to grep for depth track. We'll try that one. Nope. We'll just add it quickly. Ooh, oh, wrong part of the keyboard. Oh, touch typing has just gone downhill for me. Alright, let's just quickly install that. Now we should be able to run it. Fingers crossed. Depth track YAML cannot be found. Okay, so that's our first step, is let's get that file created. Now this is part of a talk I'm going to be giving tomorrow. So I've prepared this, a lot of things for this for tomorrow. So I can quite easily come over, come to, that's my the cache, come to here. I can just copy that, drop that in there. But what I need to do beforehand is I need to come to my composer JSON and just add my new namespaces which I want to auto load. So we're going to have domains, source domains, so then we can just, let's close this down and let's just get this all set up, right? Source, create that one, create that one, run a quick update. That'll update everything, so it will do the auto load and everything as well. So from a domain perspective, we're going to have one main domain for now called publishing, and within there we're going to need this includes, so we're going to need this little depth track YAML within there as well. So what I'll do, I'm going to grab that and copy it across so you can see it, and I'll walk through this next. Yeah, punk rock Disney, can't beat it. So the path that we're at, so this is our current path that we're worrying about, the layers. So we've got a publishing domain. The class name must match that, and it must not include anything to do with that. Then we're going to have our app, so we can pull in contracts and anything to do with Laravel, basically. Lots of confusing stuff. I definitely need to look through depth track a little bit more detail to understand it, but it means that we've got app, contract and Laravel all available. So here's anything to do with our application, here's anything for publishing, and here is Laravel. So let's run it. Let's see what happens. So, warning, format files depth change, blah blah blah. Otherwise, please update your depth file. I'll have a look at that another time. So, we've got no violations, we've got one uncovered, and we've got 366 allowed. So far we're doing good. We should be able to run our tests as well. There should be tests. I did write some tests. Still got that silly basic test up the top, but we want to make sure the login screen can be rendered. That's login, auth, publishing. The stuff that we care about right now. So it can show the correct format, it can create new posts, making sure that that page is functional. The dashboard, we want to make sure that it shows a list of posts on the dashboard. That's all we care about right now. So we can move on. This isn't really about testing, but obviously testing comes into everything we do. So going back to the talk, they had a really nice way of loading roots, which sounded cool. So what I was thinking of doing here, this is why this is more of a experimental stream. I'm going to add a new file here called web, and add our strict types. So what we've got in our roots down here, this block, so while that's in here, if we just do a root list, we've got a nice big chunk. So we're going to copy that, remove it and stick it in here. And by the end of it, we're hoping to have these listed back within here. So there's no post roots in there anymore, which is good. So to do that, what we need to do is we need to come to publishing, create a new directory called providers, and we're going to create a new PHP class called publishing service provider, and that is going to extend the service provider from Laravel Illuminate support. Quickly simplify that one. So the only thing we need to do on this is add a register method. It's the only thing we really care about. We're not trying to boot anything right now. We're not doing any mappings. All we want to do is register something. So we can say load roots from. The path that we want to load things from is, so what I did on my other one, and I want to discuss this. The reason I'm doing this is I want to be able to discuss this with people. You know, jump in the comments and tell me I'm silly. Whatever comes to mind. But we want to load it from the current directory, go back to our roots web. Something really simple, right? So, I mean, I could do that, or alternatively, I could just do base path, which is a root path, and then we're going to go into source, and we can go domains, publishing, roots web.php, and thanks, Philip. Trusty Elixir developer to come in and moan about PHP. So that works, but it feels like I'm using a helper just to load a file, and while it looks nice and it's going to give me consistency, so's that. So I'm not overly bothered. So it wasn't loaded. It's still not loaded. So if we come over to our config app down here, what I like to do at this stage is grab a comment block, and we'll call this domain service providers. Domains. Publishing providers. Publishing service provider. Class. So all of our domain specific things will be down here, and then all of our app specific things will be up here. And eventually these will lessen and will rely more heavily on our domain itself. So now we have our posts back, which is great. So we've done that first point that I made. Where's Notion gone? Here it is. Here's Notion. It's hiding from me. Here we go. Routing makes sense. We move it over there. Cross-domain contract. Yeah, we're going to be working on that. Service provider stop boundary leakages. Just done that, and then we've registered the routes, but we can also register service providers that are specific to our domain. So things like any broadcasting capabilities or any specific events that you need to dispatch within your domain, you can register. You can create a new service provider within your domain and register it within that core publishing service provider. Makes it cleaner, makes it nice. So next step is to refactor some stuff. So one of the main concepts that I took away from Laracon was actions are amazing and DDD can really help you as you scale your product. So what I've got so far in my controllers, for example, is my store controller. Great example. We've got a store request over here that's constrained within the app. Kind of makes sense, right? You know, it is part of the application. It's not part of my domain logic. It's not part of my business. It's not part of anything to do with that. It is to do with how my app is integrating with the domain. It's taking a request in, it's validating it against a certain set of rules, and it could extend from a core core validation for that domain, but currently it's not. And then obviously we're just manually creating a new post and redirecting. So this is a bit that we need to look to move. So if this was the way, I'm going to completely butcher the name, Ryuta would do this. He would create a service class. He would create a post service class. He'd create a post service interface within the domain. He'd bind to that one. Add a add something to his service provider so it's bound nicely, and then he'll just inject it in the constructor and away you go. Doesn't quite work like that with actions. So a similar approach, but not quite the same, would be to simplify with actions. So if we go to infrastructure, we can create a new directory called publishing. So it's almost mirroring at this stage. We're going to add contracts. Hey, how you doing, buddy? So within here, I need to create some action contracts. So I'm going to add them under a directory called actions, because the more contracts I add, the bigger that directory is going to get, and finding anything is going to become a bit of a pain. We've got namespacing, why not use it? So I'm going to create a new PHP interface called create post contract. That's an interface, and there we go. So within here we want a public function handle, and we want it to return something, but we don't have something for it to return yet, do we? No, we do. So this is going to return a post from our application. So what we're going to pass into that is going to be a domain transfer object, or a DTO, or data object. I like to call them data objects. I had a conversation with this not too long ago. I used to call them value objects, but they are not value objects. So I eat my metaphorical hat. They are data objects or data transfer objects. So that is definitely in the wrong place within here. Data objects. It's just plain old PHP objects at the end of the day, right? So what we need to pass through to this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things. That is it. So we're going to create a new class, and we're going to call this one a post data object. Haven't got anything to extend right now, which is fine. Don't really need anything to extend because it's just something a little bit better than array at the end of the day, right? Construct. And because we're in PHP 8.1, we can do, right, okay, so we've got a public, well, protected, read-only string for the title. And what we're going to do, I'm just going to split this out. Stick the controller over here so we can check what we're doing. So we're going to have a string for the title. We're going to have a string for the description. And then we're going to have the content. We're going to have a read-only integer for the category. And we're going to have an integer for the user. So nice and simple, nice and clean. Then we're going to say public function to array. We're going to return an array. So this is the part where I'm going to morph it back into what I expect for Eloquent. So I'm going to have a title. This title. Then we're going to have our description, and this is where you can change anything that you need. Data objects and DTOs, they're the same thing, exactly the same thing. Content, this content, the category ID that we're going to use is this category. And then the user ID is going to be this user. Really simple, really clean. It's going to match what we're expecting. So here's our data object. And to create that, what we want is we want a factory. I always like using factories to create these. So I can create a factory in there. And I can say create a new PHP class. And this is going to be a post factory. I did create a helper package for this actually. So composer require just Steve King. Laravel toolkit. There we go. Really simple thing, just full of contracts. So that means I can now go extends factory contract, which means I need to add method stubs make. So all we've got is a simple make, which is going to return a data object contract. So implements a data object contract, which the only thing that this requires is it's got a to array so that our factory can handle it. And that's all we need. Simple, clean, and to the point. So I can now do this and I can say return new post data object where the title is, we're going to do a string val on a data get that attributes, and the attribute I'm looking for is title. Content string val on data get attributes. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to copy that because that's going to come in handy. Yes, it's much better, isn't it? Matteo, or Matthew from Sheffield, as he's better known. Description. He is not Matthew from Sheffield at all. Inside joke. I was on a call with him and two people from Sheffield. He's from Italy, and I just said that he was pretending to be from Italy to show us all up. So, category. That was category, but this needs to be. So yeah, I changed jobs. I am now at Car and Classic doing some pretty fun stuff. Like really fun stuff. Really fun culture focused things as well, which is amazing. A great bunch of people to work with as well. So if anybody's looking for that new role, make sure you check out careers.carandclassic. I'm going to post this. I'm going to post it in the chat because I know Frake was watching. He might decide he wants to come and join us. He might be bored of running his own business and creating, hundreds of composer packages for us all to enjoy. Where are we hiding you? Here we go. It's a loading. It's a loading. So Frake, if you're still watching this and you want to come work with Ashley the voice, feel free. Love to have you as part of the team, of course. But I don't think you will. I don't think it's. I don't think you'd want to really. Yeah, we've got Pikachu's. Does Sparcy have Pikachu's? Come to the Pikachu side. Right, so I can now paste that in there, and hey, wait, I think I posted it twice. I apologise if I did, but there you go. So feel free to join us. It's a job description. You've seen these before, right? It's pretty good. Come and have a look. Come and have a look. So it is in the chat. I showed it on the screen. Come and have a chat. Inval? No. Intval, Steve. Come on. I know you've been working in Notion all day, but there's no excuse for being useless. So we've got a post factory, which will create our post data object for us. Here's our little contract here. So what this is going to accept is post contract. That is going to accept a data object contract. We're just going to call it object. Keep it really vague at this point, right? So that's going to accept an object. There's going to return a post at this point. I mean, you could just make that more random and just say model. And I will do because reasons. Couple of reasons, which I'll get to in a moment. So that is how that bit works. So now we need to actually create the action, right? So if we come to publishing, create a new directory called actions. Then we're going to create an action, and this is going to be create new post. And this is going to implement the spelling create post contract. So let's add that method stub. There we go. So this is an action we're going to call. What's wrong in UK with dev salary? That's actually a good salary for the UK, Adrian, believe it or not. It's quite low for Europe. Some countries do pay a lot more, but for UK, that's actually pretty good. Pretty good in some European countries as well. Other countries I've seen, salaries are just kind of one of these really weird topics right now. You looked at them today. Cars and Laravel. What more do you exact wait? I've got the model car on my desk, which I'm building slowly, but I'm doing a really bad job of it. So I may have to get a new one. But yeah, Cars and Laravel, people. Cars and Laravel. Yeah, and Car and Classic is much easier to pronounce than Sparsy. It's not. If you're from Belgium, Antwerp, or you just listen to one of Frake's talks, you can probably learn to spell it pretty quick. So what we need to do, we need to create a post at this point. So we are going to return, at this point, we're going to say return post. We're going to open up the query builder. And then we're going to say create. And what we're going to create, this is going to accept some attributes. So we can say object to array. That simple. So this wouldn't work if I statically called create, because that returns, oh no, it does now. It does. Ooh, fancy. But I still like using query, so we're going to go with that one. I forgot my Laravel 9. Simple things you forget at times, right? So our create post contract is currently running the create new post. So one thing I remember from the talk was it bindings? Extend service provider, publish groups, construct. I swear it was bindings or something that they did. let's go look at the Laravel docs. Service providers. So, yeah, public bindings. That's where I've gone wrong. So, if I go back to public, okay, still not going to show. But what I can do is, I believe, service provider, DigitalOcean service provider, singletons, the boot method, view compose, registering providers. So, binding and singles. There's some many simple bindings. You may wish to use this binding and singles properties that are manually registering each container binding. When the service provider is loaded by the framework, it will automatically check for these properties and register the bindings. So, for this, I do contract implementation. So, we have got the create post contract, and that is binding to create new post. And we're going to have a way to test this soon, which is great. That's about path or outside. Yeah, I mean, salaries are just one of those things that nobody's ever happy with, right? Nobody's ever happy with salaries when they're looking for work, because they always feel like they want more, and you know, a lot of time you deserve more. But what you've got to bear in mind is it's not all about money. You know, it's about happiness. Yeah, I've moved jobs in the past and recently, and it's all about finding that place where you're going to be happy and you're going to be there for a long time, and yeah, you want to find somewhere for you, right? So, without going into any sob stories or anything like that, we're just going to get on with this. So, let's say this is going to take in the create post contract for the action. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to dyn dump on this action. Dyn dump, because that's how we test in Laravel today. So, let's see if this works. That button doesn't work. That button doesn't work. I'm getting errors. I'm getting errors, people. Why am I getting errors? Storage, logs, Laravel log. App create. View. Dashboard. App posts create. App posts create. Well, it exists because it's there. So let's clear that log out. Oh, that was a test from earlier. I tried to test it and it didn't work. Let's root list. That's displaying. Create new post. So now let's go back to our Laravel log and see it's just not complaining. So what could possibly be going wrong here? Store controller. That shouldn't causing issues. I'm happy with my earnings. You know, I might not be on US salaries, but to be honest, I'm not that bothered about being on US salaries. Let's have a look. Network. It's going to create login dash. Why is it kind of circling? It's been redirected a few times. Why is that? So let's go have a look. Roots. Web. Auth posts within here. There's no reason for that to happen that I can think of. Let's drop the middleware and see if it still redirects. Undefined variable errors. We got to a root cause. Create blade. There's no variable called errors. So is this? Why is this? Valid. Might be because I'm not extending this. So store request extends controller create extends controller. Is there another way to test something? I don't know. Right. So I'm still getting this undefined variable errors. I don't get it. Why are you doing this to me? Don't do it to me. So add our auth back on. Dashboard. Okay, I'm getting a weird redirect now. So if I move these out back to our standard route positioning, do I get the same issue? And that's what I need to check. Let's go check. No, I don't. Something funny is going on. So in our standard route service provider, I'm not adding the web middleware. It's the only thing I can think of. So let's remove that from there, and let's put that back, and we're going to say web, like that. Dashboard, create. There it was. It was the middleware. We got there. So we can close those routes down. We don't care about the routes right now. The route service provider, not an issue right now, not really worrying about it. Post factory, we'll come back to. Create new post, we'll come back to. What we're going to focus on now is this store controller. Let's focus in on this. So, when we store it, we want just to say, give me this action. So, test, category, test, and test. So we got an action. So, what we can do, we can say this action handle object is going to be post factory make the attributes, give me the request validated. And that should be all I need, in theory. So, that's one of my tests. That's the important thing, right? Show you as the boldy file. No, you can't do that. Okay, so that's going to fail because I'm not validating correctly. So, we're going to artisan, going to tinker quickly, and we're just going to say app models post truncate we haven't got any. Create new post. So test this one, test and test. Save. Okay. You insert posts values. Okay, that bit's fine. So we've got title, description. Can I add or update child row? Post user ID foreign key on ID. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Why has that got a 0? Yeah, I still do that sometimes as well, Matt. Yeah, I wouldn't worry. Okay, so this bit, this is why, because I'm not passing it through, coming through as an int val, which is giving it a 0. So we need to do an array merge, request validated, and user is auth ID. And let's just getting carried away with the keyboard again. So now dashboard shouldn't be there. Cool. So doesn't matter. We're gonna do stuff later. And there we go. We got something. This is my post. It is fantastic, isn't it? Simple refactoring step. So if we just come out of that database design, front end view is going to be simple later. We're going to have a moderation workflow for approving and not approving, and then we're going to build a really simple analytics engine later on at some point. But to start with, that was what I would call a reasonable refactor. So let's run our tests and make sure they're definitely running. I shall have a drink of ye old apple juice. So, note to self, the @errors helper will not load unless you are wrapping it in the web middleware. And I know user ID was 0. It is no longer there. I am happy. Right. I wonder how quickly this is going to get blocked because of privacy or copyright of the songs. We'll see. If you don't see this after I finish the stream, then I apologise. It's just been taken down. So we have resolved that by using an array merge. Because we're doing request validated, we could have just passed in an array and controlled that, but we're just going to get the validated request and pass in our user as well. So we're validating everything we know we need. If we're ever going to pass anything through that we're not validating, which we shouldn't, then we're going to have to do like an array merge if we want to use a validated. Nice easy way to do it, really. So that's all we need to do, and that is let's run dep track now. Let's see if there's any issues. So we've got some issues. So store controller must not depend on create post contract in store controller line 18. Create post. Okay, so yeah, that's something I could do. We'll see. It feels odd. Feels odd. Let's look into this. So we've got that a store controller must not depend on infrastructure publishing contracts actions create post contract blah 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 blah, lots of stuff. So currently our app cannot depend on contracts, which it should in theory. Inject the current user in the store. Can you now? I've not really done a deep dive on form requests in a long time. Form requests. So make a form request. You've got. Okay, it's going to be much quicker if I just kind of come to here, go to the form request, see what we've got available. So we've got validator instance, create default, validation, get redirect URL, passes, fails, safe, validated messages, attributes, set validator, set redirector, set container. Okay, so is there anything? Stopping validation, redirecting, redirect, authorizing. Customizing messages, manually creating validators. Not something I've done before, if I'm honest, Adrian, and it's not in the docs, so it's not something I would have reached for. If you've got an example or a link, love to see it. You know, If it means I can clean up my array merge and I can be really specific on my validation classes because it's one validation class per request, then definitely happy to give that a go to help clean up my code a bit. So these errors, infrastructure, publishing, contract, actions, create. So our project is saying that we shouldn't depend on contracts, which because of our DI container we kind of should be because we're binding, right? So let's go to dep track and let's have a look. So importing rule set app Laravel. Surely my app should also rely on the contract, right? Hey Jack. Because I mean, the whole idea here is that my application is binding to a contract which my domain is implementing. So if I run this again, let's see if that changes anything. We got less violations. Store controller must not depend on post factory. Okay, so yeah, that's fine. I get that bit. Store controller, post factory. How can we do that nicely though? Because I mean, I don't want to resolve a million things out of the container just to save one thing. I could bind. It would mean I'd have to create something specific down here. So let's follow this train of thought. Yeah, the whole idea of this testing is that I'm gonna try a few things. It might not be perfect. It probably won't be perfect, but I'm trying to play with ideas that I found while I was watching Laracon. So post factory contract, and this is of course an interface. Obviously you don't really need to declare strict types on an interface, but I'll still add it because it looks nice. So we're going to have a public static function make. This is going to accept an array of could this not just extends factory contract? Then this makes this almost pointless, right? No, we won't do that. We want to be able to control it a little bit more. So there we go. Post factory contract. So we've got a post factory contract, which means that in our domain under our providers, we're also going to want to bind our post factory contract to post factory for our domain publishing factories. This is going to implement that instead, so not the toolkit one. Post factory contract, so that is fine. So post factory contract, we're not going to add a static make. No static make. Hey, I'm back. Sorry, my internet blipped, so I apologise. I had to reconnect the stream. So, yeah, I couldn't see that either, Adrian, to be honest. Sounds like a few people are interested in knowing where that's coming from. If you don't mind sharing. So our post factory, we get a store request, a dep file. Yeah, our app is allowed to use contracts and the Laravel core code base. We don't want it to use any specific domain. Then we're going to import that from the domain. And for our domain, we only really want contract and Laravel, right? We don't really want to be binding to our application from within our domain at the same time. But create new post must not depend on app models post. Okay, so create a post. Where is that? Create new post. Publishing actions. Create new post. Okay. Would have to use the DP facade. Would have to do something. We may have to allow that for now until I can figure that out. Because we want to be able to access. This is where Eloquent kind of doesn't fit in with that DTD paradigm. Ooh, can't you? If I make you a moderator, you can post a link. We will. Oh. We'll make you a moderator for a bit, so you can add a link if you like. So, obviously, update isn't working. What I need to do is I'm just going to fix that so that it stops bugging me, because it's in the back of my mind. And I know I've been streaming for a little bit. I want to make sure I get that bit done. So within app, create form is going to store. That's fine. And this needs to go to UID. There we go. We are good. So update, and we're good. So testing, update. Great. Test description. Sweet. So that just says not yet published right now, which is fine. What else can we do? I mean, bear in mind that this is aimed around the talk I'm giving tomorrow, which is, you know, a 40-minute talk. So it's a different app, obviously. But what I've done so far is I've managed to move the hard binding from the store controller. Now I just need to work on this, because that's fine. Yeah, that's fine, but it's not what we want. So for our grab this, and we're just gonna update, and we're just gonna drop that in there. So what we want to do realistically is say this action handle something. So that's not going to be a create post contract. It's going to be a different one now. Ooh. Here is the link. So let's go have a look at that link. Validation. And we are looking for pairing input for validation. Oh, I did not see that. Thank you for pointing that one out. That is super useful. Much appreciated. So what I can do is got a void return type. Come on, Steve, type. And what I can do is this merge. The input is going to be what can I get? What can I get? This user ID. Done. I mean, you could use the auth helper if you wanted to. But if I've got access to the request already, I may as well use this user ID, right? Ooh, define the rules as well. Okay, let's have a look. So I've got in this, I've got to say user ID, and then this is ooh. So required, give it integer, exists, users, ID. That's for store request. Store request. So what I want to do is on the store controller is just, if I don't want to save it, I'm just going to die and dump request all for now. Yeah, I think it's a rule. Yeah, that's it's failing because it's not passing. So, store request. That might be right. Let's have a look. So we've got a user ID of 1. But I don't really... Validated, that's fine. But then if I remove this from the validated array, it's no longer there. So it does have to be there. Cool. Cool. Yeah, you could. So that's going to be down to the gates, I suppose, if you're going to do any like policies and that sort of thing. Because you're going to say, okay, user ID, you're only ever going to pass the registered user ID. But let's just have a quick... Let me copy this element. Then we're going to edit this quickly. So name, user ID, what happens if I do that? No, it's still defaulting to the correct one. That is correct. Because I'm using this user ID, I'm getting the requested user ID. I'm not going off of what's passed in. I am going off of, if you pass like user ID in, I'm merging on top of that, I believe. Yeah, I'm merging it partway through before it validates, and replacing whatever you pass through with the user ID. So I'm replacing that user input so it doesn't matter. There we go. That is how that will work. We've got to the bottom of it. So let's carry on. Where am I? Right, okay, so actions. We're going to have, so we've got to create post contract, and we're going to want to have a new update post contract. What if I create one? Yeah, exactly right. So, update post contract. So when we're updating, we're going to pass through an object, but we also want to pass through like the identifier for that specific model. So it's like, here's the object, and here's the ID that you need to update from. I mean, you could do it the other way around, but yeah, details at least at that point. So come down to our domain. Hey, Andreas, how you doing, buddy? Actions. So let's create a new action. Let's go PHP class, and we're going to say update post. Is going to implement the update post contract. Bam. So now I can simplify, and then I can say post is going to be post query first on that identifier, then we can say post update object to array, return post refresh. There you go. So we're going to find it, then we're going to update it, and then we're just going to return the refreshed version of it. So if we go back to, we want that, and we want that, don't want that, we're going to want that in a minute. That is now all fine. Right, back to our providers. So this is where we've got our update methods. And this is going to go the update post action. So if I post contract, import that one. That's that bit done. So here we can drop that. Update post contract. So our when we handle it, we need to pass through the object, which is going to be this factory make attributes, the request validated, and then the identifier is post ID. So I was wrong. There is something I need to change. I don't need that array merge anymore. If all goes well. Hey Moen, Matteo, Andreas, zombie mojo on the line. Why not? If it works for you. Right, so first off, let's run tests. Moment of truth. Moment of truth. We got a failure. Integrity constraint violation. Pest PHP. Pest is awesome. Pest dash PHP DOS PH. What am I on about? So the slug is failing. Maybe. No, the user ID is failing. Why is the user ID failing? I'm meant to be overriding that. Wait. Ah! So store request. I added this. Update request. I haven't. Then I just need to add this onto the update. And we should be good. Run our test again. Let's have a look. Oh, we're still failing. Okay, so we're still not getting that back. Still failing on that user. Can you explain what to declare strict types equals 1 do? Basically, it just enforces a stricter type. It's probably a nice way to explain it. Someone wrote a blog post about it. I can't remember who did it. Strict types I did read a newer one not too long ago. To enable the strict mode, blah blah blah. Tell you what, I'll drop this link in for you. I'll probably completely butcher the explanation for you, so I'll keep you with that one. So, can I add show fails blog experiments? We're still getting 0 for user ID. I think you have to add it to fillable on the model. But it should be. It should be. I always make sure I add that. User ID, it's definitely fillable. Category ID is fillable. Okay. That might just be coming through wrong then. So I'm just going to go auth helper. Done. Let's have a look. Run it again. Okay, so we're still passing through 0 for some reason. I don't know why we're getting that. Go look at that test. That was on line 41. So, down to line 41. We create a user, create a category. We log in with that user. We're not passing it through to there. We're posting that through to there and expecting this to work. So in our store controller at this point, if I dine dump on... Wait, I know why it's not working. I know why it's not working. Because it's looking for that. I think that's it. Send it out there. Yeah. So, we'll go to a manual test. For a dashboard. Live stream test. We'll go for the most exciting category out there. And we're good. So that was it. So there we go. That was the problem. We were trying to load the user from the request, not the user ID, which is what we are now overriding on our requests. So, whoa, in a roundabout way, we got there. Now let's check depth track again. No issues, just what I like to see. Data get, it's all about that data boss. Yes, 100% 8.1. Enums, post status. Now, I feel like this needs to be within a domain. So I'm going to refactor and move class. So, domains, publishing, enums. Refactor. Do refactor. Now we can run depth track again and see if it's been killed. Yeah, okay. Our app can't depend on that. What can we do? What can we do? All I can do is put this back in app, which it feels wrong, but you know, it happens. Hey, Luke. So dep track is working. That's a funny error then. Let me see what's going on. Oh no, nothing. It's fine. I thought I saw something. Oh, cache. It's okay. We're good. We're good. So here's our enum. Very simple. We've got draft, published, archived, hidden. So the idea is that a user is able to archive their own post, and you submit your blog post into a draft state. That goes for moderation. Well, really, I should have a moderate state. So, are you ready for moderation? Yes. So you can say, save my blog post as a draft, and I'll come back to it. And then when it's in a moderate state, that knows it's ready to be moderated. But at that point, the moderator, admin, whoever, can either say, right, this is now published or hidden. And what hidden means is that it's just not available to the public, basically. There's no published active state on it at all. It's just get it out the way. You can still edit it, resubmit it maybe, re-review that to be published. And then obviously you can then archive your own posts at that point. Relatively simple to do. There's not much else I can think of right now. How long have we been streaming for, people? We've been streaming for apparently 57 minutes ago, but it feels like longer than that. 78 minutes ago. Okay, that's cool. So, what we've managed to do, we've managed to take a Laravel application, which was cruddy as you like, and from learnings from Laracon, where we had an amazing talk. Yeah, the most complex fake blog experiment in exit. No, I've seen worse. I've seen a CQRS blog, and I'm not going down that route. So what we've done is we've moved it out, and there's a reason I chose blog. This has given me a good foundation for some of the PHP online stuff that I'm doing, where I want to allow people to write blogs and allow this moderation process to go on. We've added dep track. We don't have any extra service providers to register yet, so we don't need to worry. We implemented the contracts instead of concretes. Perfect. And our routes are loading from our domain as well, which is amazing. So, I mean, from a domain perspective, I mean, I could have like pages or something. But it's doing good. We're there. We are. You know, we've got some actions. We've got some factories. We're coming to domains. Need dead object doesn't need anything because I've got a package for that. Factory, providers, routes, actions. Each one has got its own. So, what do we want this? What do we need anything else? Let's look in routes quick. Web. Honestly, I don't think we need to add much more than that. It's all about the beard. I don't think we need much more than that. I mean, some people argue and say that, you know, oh, you may as well put your controllers within your domain, but that's my app. You can have multiple apps. I've got a web backend. I'm going to have a web front end. I'm going to have an API. You know, I'm going to have multiple apps within that app directory. In reality, so you know, as soon as I get to that point, I'm splitting between apps. So I wouldn't put that in my domain because it doesn't belong there. It's a shiny head. It's not been shined for a while. I apologise. Made me lose track now. Darn it. What was I on about? Making me forget things, people. Yeah. So we've got our publishing domain, and we've got publishing infrastructure, so we're binding. This isn't technically, this wouldn't be called infrastructure, because what you'd put in this is anything where you're talking to a third-party service, and I suppose you could call it that if you wanted to, but you don't need to. Perhaps we can think of a new name for that for next time. If anyone's got suggestions, let me know. I mean, the way it was explained in Ryuta's talk was that he called that Laracon, because that was where he was binding for this specific. Yeah, my hair's upside down. No, I don't want to use a package for this. I have a specific way I like doing this, and this is me experimenting with lessons learnt from Laracon on things that I can do, using actions, using domain-driven design differently. One thing I picked up from Luke Downing was, I used to have a static handle method, but it meant that I couldn't handle any sort of dependency injection. I couldn't load this from the container in any way. I had to kind of statically call it anytime I wanted it, which is fine, but it made it less testable. It made it less replaceable as well, especially now that we're implementing a create post contract. Now let's say this, I want to swap to Neo4j, for example. I wouldn't do a post query here. I'd return something else. I'd probably have like in my constructor, public function construct. At this point, I would probably end up having something like a private read-only client, which is client. We'll call that the Neo4j client, and I'd say, okay, so this client begin transaction, and I'd add it in there, and I'd want to, do something where I, to eloquent model, something really random there, I know, but what it means is I can create a new action and just bind to this in one place and not have to replace it anywhere I might be calling it. And it makes it clean, it makes it nicer. And the fact that I'm using some of the tricks from the other talk is that my roots are all within here, so if I ever want to just drop that domain completely, I can delete it. Carry on. Yeah, static feels like... Static's just a way to make it feel like a facade when it's not a facade, right? That's why I do it sometimes. Make it feel like a facade without having to build one. But yeah, that's where I've got to, and I think that sits quite nicely with me personally, as a developer and as someone who's interested in software architecture. I've got my infrastructure, which is what I'm binding to, This is everything that I want to guarantee things are like within my application. My domain can change as much as it needs to, as long as my application is binding within this, the contracts that are within my infrastructure. Which means that I can swap from Eloquent to the DB facade. I could swap from Eloquent to Neo4j to a MongoDB adapter to just a PDO if I really wanted to, and it would be fine. So, on that note, I'm going to call it a day because I think I've achieved my mission and I've managed to listen to some punk rock Factory, which I believe they've got some new music out. Let's have a look. This one. If you haven't seen the new Disney movie, I apologise. Spoiler. Great song. It's going to be a bit louder now. Okay, that was louder than I anticipated. I apologise, people. Clear out your eardrums. But yeah, I mean, give me some feedback. This was an experiment. This wasn't a tutorial. This wasn't, you should write code this way. This was I was inspired by a few of the Laracon talks, and instead of spending my own time working on this inspiration that I achieved, I want to do it publicly, see what people thought, see if anyone felt it felt right. Validate some of those ideas and play with them. I could be chasing the complete wrong cat up the wrong tree, but you don't know until you try, so here we go. Let me know in the comments. Yeah, We Don't Talk About Bruno is amazing. I think I've watched that movie like 3 times now with the kids, mostly wife. But yeah, it's great. So let me know in the comments. They're in the link below, down there somewhere. There is a Discord link. Feel free to join my Discord. I chat in there quite often. Talk to people. Talk about issues we're having at work. Talk about, my God, have you seen this code? It's making me die. To things like, have you seen the new Star Trek? Talk about random stuff as well as code. So feel free to join. We get advice. People ask questions. Help each other out. Don't feel you have to. Not feeling contracts for actions. Yeah, I'm on the fence. I'm definitely on the fence. It's there. But is it completely there, right? It's... If it was a package that was maybe a little bit more abstract, yeah, I get it. In a larger application, I'd definitely see the benefit, but in a blog, no, this is way overkill. If this was just my blog, then I'd probably just have callables within one root file and just have it all in there and just get it done and get it launched so I can write blog posts. But this is just an experiment, so a bigger application, I could see some benefit, especially in an application where you're integrating with this API or doing something with this. Yeah, having that loose coupling through a contract is probably a huge benefit. Especially when, you know, R&D phase, when you don't know what you're going to be doing, you know, you're switching from this tech to that tech, or we're going, you know, we're going to use, you know, Google Cloud BigQuery or whatever it's called, and then you switch and you go, actually no, I want to go do this instead. Yeah, it's... There's circumstances where it is useful. Make a tutorial about Nova or Filament. I definitely want to do some more Filament stuff. I've been speaking to Dan Herron and he's going to join me at some point on stream when we can arrange it, and we're going to dig around with some Filament because I'm a huge tall stack fan. I might be 5'8", small stack, but I am Team Tool Stack most of the time. Yeah, this was fun. Like, comment, subscribe, so, you know, I can make me feel like more than just my mum's proud of me. But thank you for tuning in. Can't wait to see you next week. Won't be again this week. I'm speaking at Leeds PHP tomorrow. You can find them on Meetup, I believe. Let's look at Leeds PHP. My talk tomorrow, from artisan to badass, going past the basics with Laravel. So I'm going to drop that in there. Feel free to RSVP. It is a free to attend online event, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to do a live code refactor of a Laravel application and go beyond the basics of CRUD. So like the process I've just done, but less experimental, more kind of let's just do something. Yes, you're absolutely right there, Michael. Actions are good for sharing between the console and the web, and all these other things that you might be interacting with. It's creating that single way to do a job. You're creating, yeah. In the Laracon talk, there's a service class, and you've called this. Yes, it will be live. RSVP. It'll be fun. But I'm going on now, and my wife is probably wondering where I am. So I'm going to go. Thank you very much. And I suppose I can't wait to see you again. See you later. Have a good night.